Majority of the lap time to potentially be, but as he then heads through Dunlop, you'll want to expect the car to try and cling on as much as he can through this left-hander here. You'll see as he gets closer and closer to the Degner, brake as late as he possibly dare, chug the car through the right-hander, and then again, once again, through the right-hander, and then underneath the bridge. Now, a little bit of a kick out then from the NSX, but not a bad sector at all. Going through then into the hairpin, you'll want to try and keep as close as you can to the inside line, then power out of the corner. I think you left a little bit of time on the ground though, going through the right-hander, and of this next set of selection of corners. We'll get there in the end as they then head through Spoon, my favourite set of corners, this one here then, as it'll be nice and cool and nice and easy nonetheless as well. So fastest lap 1:59.809 from Jonathan Spiteri though, but second place to this man at the moment, as well as he'll try and keep his nice and cool, nice and easy for Owen Cassar as he plows down the main straight and then through 130R. We'd expect the Honda to be at its absolute peak now as he then chucks the car through the Casio triangle. The curb on that inside line, and then very nicely planted as the car will head down that main straight and set his first lap time. It was below the, it's above rather the 2 minutes. He sets a 2:02.316. Not badly taken so far as well from the man of the moment as well, Owen Cassar in the Honda. Just joining in the rooms, then getting themselves ready for what will be no doubt a very interesting set of events ahead. Very first sector though, from Owen, who will want to find a little bit more time than the 2.5 that he's lost to Jonathan, who is on a lap himself at the moment as well. He's actually probably still in the pits as we are waiting for qualifying to begin. Drivers just practicing out there as well. Looks like we're going to be getting going any minute now. Qualifying is underway. The AMG GT3 and all the drivers now leaving the pit lane and getting themselves on their way on their outlaps now around this one of the more iconic of circuits in the racing sphere. Currently following at the moment, Ayrton Birmingham. This is the champion from last season, the defending champion from last season in the BMW M6. Expecting big things from him this season, of course. Battled it out pretty intensely a couple of seasons ago. But he will be hoping to try and retain his crown. He will the Asphalt King himself from season 3. Denzel Agius will be looking to try and take glory again after losing it last season. Won it in the previous season, of course. Should be, though, an absolute cracker nonetheless from the Asphalt King, the favourite alongside Denzel Agius this season. If you are just tuning in, welcome aboard. This is the GT7 Asphalt Kings tournament, Brought to you by Velocity. And of course, brought to you by our friends down at Hyundai Intercomp, Monster Energy, Brand Garage Level Academy, and The Specialist. So, BMW M6 GT3. Is that the choice car for this particular track? Well, longer wheelbase could offer good ground clearance over the curbs, but may not be the fastest or the most agile around the corners. So will the engine do the talking? He's given a lovely tow though, which could pose a little bit of a problem, but across the line he will go, and he will be on his way. Have got the AMG just in front, so he'll be the first person to set a lap. Though critically, Owen Cassar has dived straight into the pit lane. So not happy with his outlap, and he'll have another go at this one. Here is Jonathan Spiteri in the McLaren. He will be setting a 33.3, not bad in the first sector in the McLaren. He's actually just tucked in behind, believe it or not, that favourite in Jonathan Spiteri. They've actually tucked in just behind Ayrton Birmingham at the moment. So a little bit of dirty air being kicked off around this particular circuit. A little visit through to the gravel, but underneath the bridge, and no issue whatsoever. 53.7 actually getting a little bit closer to the BMW. So a little bit of a threat. Potentially could end up facing a little bit of a challenge in terms of track space, if you will. This is where the dirty air effect could pose a little bit more of an issue. Through Spoon. 13 and 14 respectively is the number. Well, 650S McLaren GT3 just following the BMW around. Under 2 minutes would be nice. It's where we would see in racing trim, where people would be given a penalty, and off of the throttle they will go at that particular yellow marker. Of course, this is the qualifying. Going through the right-hander, then the left of the Casio triangle. Chris Summit setting the first lap time. But Jonathan Spiteri going fastest, no doubt. 1:59.4. Lovely lap time indeed. Man looking to try and put a little bit of pressure, of course, on those around them. Immediately beating actually the fan favourite and the favourite, as well as the title holder, who is currently second at the moment, and just in front of him in the BMW. Other lap times will be coming in across as well. Clint Orland down in 6th place. What about lap time indeed, as well as Dave Spotty 09. David Mifsud into the top 5. Of course, got Daniel Mallier as well in P4. He's just a little bit ahead. What about lap time indeed as well, just managing to sneak in front by 53 thousandths a second against Dave in the GTR Nismo. Lovely livery, that one as well. Love that car as well. The Nissan GTR should be a cracker at a circuit like this one. Should be a cracker as well at Nürburgring in a few weeks' time. Of course, where a lot of its pedigree was built, thanks to the guys at Nismo and Nissan. Up in P3, not a bad effort indeed so far from Denzel Agius. That's the second place team, but this lap time coming in from Daniel's improving. Should be a good lap time, this one actually coming in from Daniel. Now, Daniel will be looking to try and put a little bit of a threat, and he actually might be beating Denzel Agius here. Just coming across the final line. And will he be beating him? He certainly will. Manages to find a good chunk of time, and actually stays in P3, and Denzel Agius actually relegated to P5, but then immediately comes across the line in the Lexus. Straight away with a P2. Cracking lap indeed, but still not beating Jonathan Spiteri at the moment, who was looking so sharp out there in the McLaren, and over 3/10 between him and Denzel Agius, showing why he is the favourite for the title once again in the Asphalt Kings. It's like a bit of a slow lap now for the king himself. Nonetheless, so a really, really good effort so far from Jonathan Spiteri. Managing to find that much time against Denzel Agius already, and that, remember, that lap time only 36 thousandths ahead, actually, of Ayrton Birmingham. Of course, remember, he is the defending champion, Ayrton Birmingham. Jonathan Spiteri actually in a really tight battle with him last season, and showing exactly why he was that man. Denzel Agius, we were just on board with him just a few short moments ago, looking to try and at least get within touching distance of Jonathan Spiteri, not expecting any lap time of any value on this particular occasion. He did lose about 3/10. He's lost 2 seconds as well, so it is an in-lap or potentially a bit of a slow lap from the McLaren. But we'll see how his Casio triangle is. He's lining himself up to have another go. Is the number 58. And he dives straight into the pit lane. No surprises on that one. Denzel Agius, number 54, looking to try and set himself an early precedent. He's not pitting. He's getting straight on with it. Sets a 1:59.747, which if that works out right, I believe he's just gone and set exactly the same lap time as his fastest lap time in the Lexus. Not a bad effort indeed. Dear me. Here's Daniel Malia, looking to set an early precedent himself in the Nismo, but 2 3/4 of a second down in the first sector tells me he's probably going to lift. And he'll have another go at another time. Chucks the car through the right-hander underneath the bridge. And he has found a little bit of time in the second sector, but not a bad effort indeed from the GTR Nismo. But we're just keeping an eye out on the other lap times as well. 3-second penalty for Jonathan Spiteri after extending the track limits, so testing them. So lap time will be completely done and dusted. He'll be serving that one as he comes out of Spoon. Down that back straight. Here's Denzel Agius. Season 2 champ wants his crown back, does the king. Chucking the car through the left-hander, as is this man. JDM Addicts, known as Ayrton Birmingham, the defending champion. Currently down in P3 at the moment. And you know what? Over 3/10 down, but only 36 thousandths down on Denzel Agius. He's still got a little chance of potentially getting in there with the likes of Denzel Agius. Very tightly compacted qualifying session already, this one. But Spiteri leading the way with that 1:59.428. So go on board with the champion from last season. Ayrton Birmingham just starting his lap, and here he goes. As he heads down the straight here, hopefully not going to get blocked by the others as he goes through into turn 1. I believe that will be the GTR Nismo. Chucking the car through third, loses the rear ever so slightly, but well held. Staying out of the way is that GTR. Mount these curbs here, you're more than welcome to do so. The car will handle it up these S-curves. It's turn 6. May lose the rear ever so slightly through here if you get it wrong, but 47 thousandths up, that is good enough for a front row. This pace is looking pretty strong from the championship winner. last season out, then chucks the car through the right-hander. It's a lot of curb going through there, and that'll be a good chunk of time lost as he mounts it up here as well. Not comfortable at all, and look at all that time he's lost. Just over 3/4 of a second. I think that lap is done and dusted. Still on board, though, with the championship leader. This lap should be done and dusted, championship winner, rather, from last season, as we go on board with Jonathan Spiteri. Here he is in the McLaren. But he is on an outlap at the moment, so this will be an opportunity to get his tyres set up, ready to go. Horrible off there, wasn't it, from Ayrton Birmingham? That's JDM Addicts. Just lost the rear as he tried to take as much of the curb as he could. And I say he didn't really lose the rear as such. He lost the front. Just absolutely no grip whatsoever on the front, and then tried to power out of it as he goes underneath the bridge and then lost the rear. So a few learnings to take from the king of last year. Or rather last season. Jonathan Spiteri doing a decent job to found, well, over 3/10 to second place is a valiant effort from the man fighting for the title last year. That hunger still not leaving the Maltese man. Here he goes. Straight down then. He'll get a nice toe actually going through into turn 1. He'll try and take as much of this curb as he can. Nicely taken. But he does miss his apex, actually. Goes for the wider line. Going through 2. Now up the hill, the set of S's. So we've got the AMR GT3 getting out of the way. We've also got the Honda directly in front of him. Hopefully that's not going to cause him too many issues. In fact, it might have done, but definitely that turn 2 was not the ideal line, and he's already down 3/10 of a second, and I would guess he's going to use this as an opportunity to have another in-lap. So I don't think there'll be a lap on the cards here, so we'll go to Denzel Agius in the Lexus. Plenty of power with the Toyota affiliation in the Lexus, but will the longer wheelbase be a detriment at a circuit like this one? Heading down the back straight. Again, this is where we'd see people serve their penalties in the race. That could pose a bit of a threat as they go through 130R. He's found 21 thousandths, which is nice indeed. That puts him, well, a little bit of a gap between him and Ayrton Birmingham. But Jonathan Spiteri is looking to be a bit untouchable at the moment. But Chris Samut's come across the line and gone P2. Denzel Agius. Oh, he has gone fastest. With a nice purple lap time indeed. 1:59.250. Suddenly, Spiteri not looking touchable. He's almost certainly been beaten down. Now that turn 2 escapade has proved to be a real issue. So Spiteri just starting his lap. Chris Samut, what a lap indeed from the man in P3. Beating the championship leader, who is now down in P4. Again, championship leader, championship winner from last time out. And he's 99 thousandths down the second sector as well. That could be a big problem indeed. 15 minutes have now elapsed, so this is the final set of laps for everyone, by the way. Of course, after this, we'll be going straight into a 50-minute race. So, answers on a postcard, folks, because this has turned into a little bit of an unusual one. The Season 2 champion is now on pole as it stands, but lap times will be coming in thick and fast. Will be any improvement at all Ayrton Birmingham, or is this going to be a big issue for the man looking to defend his crown? It certainly will be. His third sector's not looking strong at all. And what could pose to be a real problem if others improve their lap times, he might not even be on the second row. And a bit of a wiggle going through the out of the Casio triangle. Here he comes. It's no improvement at all for the man finishing as the leader last season out. Chris Samet looking to improve. Days P3. Jonathan Spiteri is one I'm going to be keeping a very firm eye on because he's up in to try and set something. But in the end, it will be that 2 minutes 2:28. And it looks to me as if Denzel Agius in the end was the one that was going to be untouched. And it certainly is. Denzel Agius is the one on pole in that Lexus RCF GT3 from 2017, a 1:59.214. Exactly 0.214 seconds back is Jonathan Spiteri. A great lap early on, but couldn't find that consistency. Chris Samet in fourth. And then the championship winner from last season is only P4. And over half a second back and just tucking in behind. You've got a great lap indeed from Daniel Malia in P5 to round out the top five. That's a bit of a topsy-turvy affair, but in the end, Denzel Agius is the one leading from the top. Well, I tell you what, that is an absolute blinder, isn't it? In the end, we are going to be in, I think, for an absolute cracker. This is our fourth official season at the Asphalt Kings, and in the end, Ayrton Birmingham could not show the pace that he had last time out, and it's the Season 2 champion who benefits nonetheless. But nonetheless, though, Jonathan Spiteri is still within touching distance. This should be an absolute cracker. Here's the Suzuka circuit, though, 5.8 kilometres and 17 turns. And, of course, a quali lap time in that sort of 1:59.7 range, actually beaten considerably. It was a 1:59.2 in the end from the man of the moment himself, Denzel Agius. What a performance indeed. Why don't we go on a quick on-board lap, actually? Because this on-board lap will give us an opportunity to just experience one last time without any interruption of this particular one. Because in the end, the on-board laps look pretty strong. And in the end, it was a cracking lap from the likes of Denzel Agius, who just pulled it out the park, didn't he? What a performance indeed at the Suzuka circuit. Of course, don't forget, this is not just the only race of this season, of course, in the Asphalt Kings. We do have another 7 races across the rest of this season. Velocity Sports Racing brings you the Asphalt Kings now for the next 9 weeks because we are taking the Suzuka circuit, and then we take the trip just in the same country, just across to Kyoto Driving Park, before we take a visit all the way across to Europe on the 31st of July at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Then we're at the Circuit de Sainte-Croix in France, Red Bull Ring a few weeks after that. The Deep Forest Raceway in Switzerland on the 28th of the 8th before we visit the Nürburgring on the 4th of the 9th, and then the Daytona International Speedway in America to wrap up our season on the 11th of the 9th. Straight into the race in just a few short moments' time, folks, for the Asphalt Kings season opener. This is the 4th official season of the Asphalt Kings. It is round number 1 at the Suzuka circuit. We should be in for a cracking race in just a few short moments' time. Let me know who your favourites are in the comments. Of course, a quick reminder, Asphalt Kings is brought to you by Hyundai, Intercomp, Monster Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy and The Specialist. We're getting going for the racing in just a few short moments' time. Denzel Agius then on pole, leading the way from Spiteri and Chris Samet. It will be the reconnaissance lap, as the drivers will get their tyres up to temperature and get going for this one in what is a lovely liveried Lexus number 89. In a fantastic state of affairs, managing to grab pole right out of the hands of the man fighting for the title last time out in Jonathan Spiteri. He really fought hard, didn't he? And in the end, he was fighting hard for pole. But Denzel Agius right at the death, pulling an absolute cracker. So, if you're wondering how this race is going to go, it's a 50-minute race. And, of course, there is that one mandatory pit stop where, of course, the drivers have got to elect to choose 2 of the tyre compounds available, soft, medium and hard, in this race, whatever they start on. Drivers will be getting straight on with it. Just getting all of the display info sorted. As we can see, all the drivers fighting it hard. We are racing for what will be, I think, an intense race ahead of us. Jonathan Spiteri did a decent job, actually, to get himself in front of all of the drivers by such a long margin in the end in qualifying, wasn't it? 0.3 of a second. But in the end, it was just not enough for Denzel Agius. Coming around the final corner. Oh, getting up on the curbs, not handy at all. That's the Casio triangle. And then down the main straight, when the drivers will be racing to their fullest now. With the tyres now all nice and warm. This is where we'll start to see then the racing beginning. We've got Clint Orland here, who's looking fairly quick here actually against Daniel Malia, who was looking actually like he's under a little bit of trouble already. Looking to keep the pressure on. Here's Clint Orland. He is actually going on board with Daniel Malia, because Daniel Malia, and then we're moving forward actually, sorry, to Ayrton Birmingham. Now, a disappointing set of events it has been for the winner of the championship last season. Could not find any comfort in his BMW. Actually losing a little bit of ground to Chris Sammet at the moment. And Daniel Malia is looking like he could go for the move if he wants to into the hairpin. But in the end, the Nissan elects not to put too much pressure on his fellow co-compatriot from Britain. Heading down then towards Spoon Curve. Could be an opportunity if he wants to be a little bit risky to go side by side through here. I've seen GT3 cars go around here side by side before. Didn't end well, shall we say. Out of Spoon. And I tell you what, Clint Orland is looking a little bit sharp in the 911 behind. Looks like the medium speed corners are going to be a benefit to those racing with the 911. Go through 130R then. Gorgeous livery on that 911, isn't it? Oh, that McLaren not looking sharp at all. I believe that was John Paul Vella. Getting up on the curbs and losing all ground whatsoever through there. He's lucky to be still pointing in the same direction actually, but Dave Potts just holding off. As he's looking to keep, if he can, in touching distance of the likes of Clint Orland. But Clint is actually on his own mission at the moment, already pulling about of a second gap on Dave Potts, and actually putting Ayrton Birmingham under pressure. Going up the set of S's then. JDM 6, Ayrton Birmingham. Losing a little bit of ground actually and finding a little bit of a no man's land, because this man, Daniel Malia, is still putting pressure on Chris Sammet and going side by side. Oh, it's tightly compacted but well held. Well held indeed from Daniel Malia, as Chris Sammet looking to continue the pressure going into the hairpin. Is the the Mercedes going to get in there? No, not on this occasion. And suddenly that Nissan is starting to look fairly sharp, and actually Ayrton Birmingham will be looking to put pressure on the Mercedes here, because Of course, after losing that position, has he not going to just lose a position, but lose confidence? He is trying to get in there. But through Spoon would be unwise at the best of times. Coming out of Spoon, power down. And Ayrton Birmingham getting closer and closer. Now this is where, again, we would see cars slow down if they serve a penalty. Casio Triangle, a good place to make an overtake if the BMW is finding it. It's getting closer and closer. Will he be able to go for it in this occasion? No. The number 70 Mercedes able to fend off the number 78 BMW. Now beginning to really lose time now to Daniel Malia, who had an excellent move. Excellent move indeed. Through Degner, which opened it up going underneath the tunnel to take the move and take the final step on the podium. Not bad so far, though. On that 45 minutes to go in this race. A little bit wide from Daniel Malia. Jonathan Spiteri pulling a little bit of a gap, though, on those behind because, of course, they were in their own little battle. So Spiteri is now concentrating on whether he can close down the gap to Denzel Agius. These were the fastest two in qualifying, so we're expecting these two to be pretty much on fire. But we were expecting Ayrton Birmingham to be in there. And I tell you what, he's not really found that much pace in the BMW. I don't know if this is perhaps a circuit that doesn't quite suit the BMW, but he's not found any opportunity whatsoever to really put any pressure on Chris Sammet. And I'll be honest with you, Chris Sammet, I think, has begun to pull away a little bit from the man finishing at the top position last season out. Tell you what, though, it would be nice if we could actually have a look at his fastest sector so far, though. Has Ayrton Birmingham, so I'm wondering if he's begun a little bit of a push. Wouldn't mind going as far back, actually, if to have a very quick look, if you don't mind, at John Paul Vella. Because I'm noticing in that lovely Marlboro McLaren, he's begun a little bit of a push in that third sector. Now I'm wondering if Dave Potts is going to be in a little bit of trouble in not too distant future. This is his apex ever so slightly through turn 1, but absolutely creamed it at turn 2. Perfect. Chucking the car through the left-hander, and then the right. Nice on-board shot as we're on board with the McLaren, looking to just try and keep over the curbs, and be a bit wary about this one, slightly off camber on the power a lot earlier, and he is setting his best sectors now, and that could be critical for John Paul Vella as he's looking to try and push Dave Potts maybe into a little bit of a mistake going through the right-hander underneath the bridge. 24 thousandths down in that second sector, though. Sector 3 is where we see the McLaren and the 911 probably at its best. Early on the power, though, very well from... And in the McLaren, John Paul Vella looking to keep up that pressure. Keep it nice and cool, nice and easy. On the power early and then on the upshift early. Might give him the best traction, but it might not give him the best acceleration out of the corners. And he has lost a little bit of time through Spoon against Dave Potts. But still within around touching distance of his best lap so far through the third sector into sector 4. Took the car through the right-hander. Late breaker, actually, in the McLaren. Very well taken. A lot of curb, so clearly confident on the ground clearance in the McLaren. Comes across the line. Still within touching distance of his best lap, but no threat so far against Dave Potts. Here we are then, going down towards the midfield. Here's Osbert Zueb. Ozzy, a man that's very kindly been helping me out as we get going with this season as well. Big thank you for your help, Ozzy. Now he's racing at the moment with the likes of Owen Kassar. 2 seconds back, and just in front of him, Marlon Spiteri himself as well. He's the one in the Mercedes. Tyres on the front starting to wear down a little bit more than the rears, so finding that it's a little bit more understeer potentially in the Mercedes, but the hard tyres working quite a treat at the moment for a potential long game. As we're following a man that's starting to be in a little bit of a no man's land at the moment. Here he is. Daniel Malia. Got a 2 second gap in front of him, a 1.5 seconds behind him against Chris Samet. You think here this is an opportunity, isn't it, for the man of the moment who's just started to find a little bit of a purple run here against the man who's got the current purple lap, Jonathan Spiteri, with a 2:01.134. So I wonder where this Nismo is going to be placed. His best lap so far is a 2:01.492. He has just beaten that with his own personal best, 2:01.308. But as it stands so far, it is honours even between the front three. Nobody really gaining any ground on each other. The Lexus holding his own. There's Denzel Agius. He's just managing his own tyres, managing his own time. The front's starting to show a little bit of wear. The white striped hard tyre. But sets the fastest sector of anyone so far in the first. Through the Degners. The Lexus. Front not quite gripping very nicely off the curb. Could pose a later threat. You can see he lost time as a result of that one. Now 52 thousandths down, but still within touching distance of his personal best. So pretty honours even between the front three. Gives us an opportunity. Why don't we possibly navigate a little bit further down the order? Let's just say, on a whim, P9. Should we just do P9? Let's just do P9. Out of the way. Who was that one then? So, we are talking with Marlon Spiteri at the moment. And he's in a bit of a no man's land of his own as well. He's trying to close down the gap on John Paul Vella up in P8. But again, another person in a little bit of a no man's land at the moment. So, what does he need to do? Well, his tyres are wearing relatively evenly, perhaps losing the fronts just a little bit more. But he's elected to go on the harder compound to start with, so wants to go for the longer stint. As we are 15 minutes into this 50-minute race. This will give me an opportunity maybe just to sit back and just think strategy-wise, right? So, fuel-wise, everyone is fueled for a considerable margin you would expect if you're on the hard tyre. So, how far do they go, I wonder? One now down to about half a tank. In Marlon Spiteri's case. But I wonder a little bit further forward, as we've just seen right there. Perfect, actually, from our director for the day, Brandon. Well, pulls out John Paul Vella himself in P8, who you may see a yellow striped tyre for him, going one step softer, and actually an opportunity is on the cards. If we go on board, if you don't mind, Mr. Director, with John Paul Vella has an opportunity to potentially take P7 out of the hands of Dave Potts because an incoming half-a-second penalty, track extension issues for P7 means a slowdown is imminent. So if we go on board, hopefully, with John Paul Vella, Dave Potts will slow down at these yellow markers right now. And that little half second is going to offer an opportunity for the McLaren to go around the outside of 130R. And he is off of the track as a result. Dave Potts defending that one hard. And John Potts not able to make any progress. John Paul Vella, rather, not able to make any progress on Dave Potts. Stays in P8. A relatively tricky race early on then, as people just trying to find the ground and gaps starting to form. I assume the front three at the moment still in their own ground in a similar vein as these guys at the moment. In fact, we do have a little bit of a battle starting to form 4th, 5th and 6th. It looks like to me anyway that Daniel Malia is getting into his own little scrap here with Chris Sammer. Going through the Degners. Remember, this was a man who was actually in P3 at one point, so a mistake must have occurred. An unforced error. Seen fall back, we've got a dive bomb from Clint Orland, who goes for the dive going through here, and they're still side by side as they head up towards Spoon. Now, this is where you would expect people not to be looking for moves here, as he gets bomb drafted all the way up towards this Spoon corner. Chucking the car through the left-hander. Once again through the left-hander. Much more grip on the front end at the moment. And that is offering an opportunity for Clint Orland to get the move done on Daniel Malia, who made the mistake coming out of Spoon. And he's now relegated to P6. He's not finding any comfort out there at the moment in that Nissan. And the reason why, as you can see, off of the curb from Clint Orland. Is he going to defend this one as well, I wonder? Round the outside. To have the inside of the next corner, that move is done. As you can see, down on the bottom left-hand side, his tyres are shot. And that is as a result of having that soft tyre. Not helpful at all. And as a result, he gets off of the soft tyre. And it looks like, to me, it's going to be a set of hards for the next half an hour of this race. Into the pits he will go. It must have been an unforced error, or perhaps just natural attrition. The tyres were absolutely shot. Gets refueled. Putting a lot of fuel in the car. And it will be a medium tyre. Looks like a hard to me, but it will be a medium. Question is now, in free air, how quick is Daniel Malia going to be? Answers on a postcard. Keep that one in check and keep that one in mind as we go back up towards the front, because I do want to return up to P4, P5, because there was a little bit of a scrap beginning, and it's actually for P6, P7 at the moment. Dave Potts still being chased down, would you believe, by John Paul Vella, who of course had that opportunity early on to potentially overtake Dave Potts after he received that half a second slowdown. But going side by side through 130R with the size of these cars was not advisable. The 7th place man stays where he was. Of course, gaining that one position thanks to the pit stop from Ayrton Birmingham. But he'll now come across the start finishing line with another 2:02.7. That is actually Jean-Paul Vella's slowest lap of this race so far. In fact, pardon me, sorry, no, it's not. In fact, it's one of his fastest. Somewhere actually in the mid-ground. If I can read my numbers right. Deary me. The Asphalt Kings looking to take a crown. So far falling in line with the man who actually held the crown a couple of seasons ago. Denzel Agius still leading the way. Actually put in a little bit of a margin of just under 2 seconds to him and Jonathan Spiteri. Spiteri, though, is a man known for managing his co-compatriots alongside him. He's raced well last season, just missing out on the title to Ayrton Birmingham. But very happy indeed to race in high intense situations, and that learning, those learnings that he took last season, is what he'll be taking into this one to potentially take a crown. Lovely stuff, isn't it? Lovely sounding McLaren. Chucking the car through the left-hander, happy to keep fifth gear. Not taking as much curb as Denzel Agius. Not happy, clearly, with the ground clearance of the McLaren versus the Lexus. So, front three as they are so far then. Denzel Agius leading the way from Jonathan Spiteri. Here's JDM Addicts, Ayrton Birmingham himself. 6 seconds back from Jonathan Spiteri and nearly 9 seconds back from the lead. Championship leader won't be happy at the moment with his pace. But is that just because he was... Well, he is in a BMW. Is that just because the car is not... The GT3 car is not suited around Suzuka, I wonder? Chris Samet keeping that pressure on for P3. Man currently in P4. Heading towards the hairpin. The Mercedes known for raw power on the rear. Will continue to be quite powerful indeed. As the front four have started their own... Well, to be honest with you, it's more of a front two than the next two. Then you've got that little battle with Dave Potts and Jean-Paul Vella for P6 and P7. But the gap just starting to open up a little bit, actually. Dave Potts has had actually a pretty good couple of laps here and bridged a little bit of gap between him and Jean-Paul Vella, which is going to allow maybe for Clint Orland to start looking over his shoulder a little bit. That's in that gorgeous liveried Porsche 911. Coming across the start finishing line, 2:02.357, 7/10 of a second. Down from his fastest lap. Front tyre's about halfway there now. Cliff edge probably about 6 or 7 laps away from that cliff edge. As we are just about, in 5 seconds time, approaching halfway there. Halfway there in this race. So estimated laps should be around about 26, 27 laps. If that gives everyone at least a little bit of an inkling about what's going on. careful, hoping to retain his crown. Here he is. Etten Birmingham. Not going to be doing his championship, well, winning hopes any, well, help if you're on over 9 seconds down from the championship leader. It was 9 points to Denzel Agius at the moment, who is just coming out of Spoon and really finding his mojo at the moment. He's so comfortable out there at the moment in the Lexus, though his front tyre's starting to look a little bit on the weaker side. Jonathan Spiteri just behind. In 2 seconds is the gap. Now I wonder if there's going to be an alternative consideration on strategy between the pair of these, because if they go on as even by the looks of things, these two are just going to hold station. Well, he has found a couple of tenths actually in the first sector now, has Spiteri. Gap was around about 2.1, it's now about 1.8, so is this a little bit of a push from Spiteri before he tries to commit to the undercut, I wonder? Wow. Going up the hill. The gap's still around about 1.9. This is apex a little bit going over the first Degner, but again, is that because the McLaren has got a lower ground clearance? Hesitant on the throttle as well, coming out of the hairpin. Through Spoon. So on board here with Chris Sammert, who's begun a little bit of a charge now, trying to put some pressure on the man who won the championship last year. Etten Birmingham will be looking over his shoulder now. And just over a second on his fastest lap. As even at the moment. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because what it means is everyone is in their own little bit of a comfort zone, but then all it takes is one person to just try a different strategy, and that completely messes it up. Our next pit stop in then, and it's the first of the medium tyre runners. First of the medium tyre runners then, Marlon Spiteri. We did have the first of the soft runners in a few laps ago. Daniel Malia. We know that this will probably go to around about lap 26, so plenty of fuel now in for Marlon. In fact, he is taking it a long way, isn't he? 78%. And straight out into P12, but critically, I'm interested to see about Daniel Malia here. He obviously pitted very earlier on, if you remember. And he could be one to watch as the pit stops come into play. His tyres are only just barely worn as well. So keep an eye on him. Let's go back towards the front, because they are going to be pitting probably imminently. Denzel Agius. As you can see, those front tyres starting to wear a little bit thin. The medium's not looking strong. Is he pitting? He's not. Spiteri, though, he is. Now this could be critical. So he's got 5% on fuel. Not that much left. So he's going to pit. He's going to fuel as long as he can. Chris Sammer is also in. He can't go back on the medium tyre. He has to use a different compound. So will it be the soft? And is he going to go for the 2-stop? Or is he going to go for the hard and go for a 1-stop? We'll see. In goes the fuel. Feels like an age, this, doesn't it? Jonathan Spiteri also in. Chris Sammet just putting the fuel in. Jonathan Spiteri will be leaving first. And what will be a soft tyre. Soft tyre with 67% of fuel. That is ultra aggressive. Here's Daniel Malia. Chris Sammet just leaving the pits. Daniel Malia did not beat Jonathan Spiteri in the end. Gap around about 6 seconds. But his tyres are suitably warmed up. The problem is that he's on a harder compound. Well, Spiteri has gone ultra aggressive. 67% of his fuel and soft tyres. That could pose, well, it'll pose a serious thunk, if you will, for Denzel Agius. What is he going to do? He is on fumes, so he's got to be pitting at the end of this lap. As he's lifting and coasting, going through Casio Triangle, actually, I think Denzel Agius is a threat here. I do think he is that threat. From Jonathan Spiteri on the fresh softs, and with all that fuel, here he comes. 7% of fuel is what he had left. Jonathan Spiteri is going through Spoon. Whilst we're saying that as well, Ayrton Birmingham is also in. Clint Orland also in. Dave Potts is staying out. An ultra long first stop here. Denzel Agius has switched his tyres. Here comes the fuel. Jonathan Spiteri has just gone through 130R. He's in the Casio Triangle. 67% is what Denzel Agius will be hoping for. But he's leaving at 55. He thinks he can manage it. Spiteri is going down the start, finishing straight. There's Denzel Agius. But it is only 55%. 55% of fuel. How many minutes of racing have we got? 17. 16 and a half. Is 55% enough? Or is there going to be some lifting and coasting for the man on pole? That could be fairly critical towards the end of this race. We're on board with with Dave Potts. He hasn't pitted yet. He's running on fumes as well, so he surely should be pitting at the end of this lap. I'm also keeping a very firm eye as well on Daniel Malia, because he pitted and he decided to go on a harder compound, but he's got 100% of his tank. He filled it to the brim. He's already down to 50% of it. Ooh, that could be a problem. Could be a problem. Definitely a net P3. But that fuel could be a problem later down the line, and it could be a problem as well for Denzel Agius. Dave Potts is definitely a problem right now. He has to pit, and he certainly has done. 2% of fuel. He was on fumes, was our Dave. Tricks car through the right-hander does Denzel Agius. Through the left-hander, a Casio Triangle, then down towards the start-finishing line. He'll reclaim his lead. Before Dave Potts even gets to see any fuel in his car. There we go, it's getting filled up. Jonathan Spiteri 4 seconds back. So Dens probably could have put a little bit more fuel in his car instead of needing to potentially lift and coast. Dave Potts, 48%. A fresh set of soft tyres. I think that was pretty close to Clint Orland, wasn't it? Must have been really close to Clint Orland, actually. It was very close indeed. Look at that. The undercut just working for the pink 911. Chris Sammer is the one who's actually lost out big time. Was in P4 at one point. But instead, that now belongs to the championship hopeful looking to defend his crown. Ayrton Birmingham trying to close down on Dan Sammer. Dan Malia, rather. Great exit, though. Very good exit, actually, from Ayrton Birmingham. Is he going to go for the dive? Not on this occasion, but he's found a little gap going through the hairpin. That is absolutely wonderful. To put himself in prime position, potentially overtaking here, but he's just decided to give that back up. Against Daniel Malia. Looks straight into Spoon. Might catch him off guard. Very handily taken from the Nissan. Piles that pressure on, though. But not the best exit out of Spoon from the BMW. But he's got the toe going through 130R, half a lift. Then into Casio. Lucky not to get onto the gravel, actually. He was taking as wide a line as he could. And actually, it's paid absolute dividends. Down the start-finish straight to start their 19th lap. He's had the toe and he's had the traction and he's got the speed. The BMW looking so strong. But he'll have the outside line of turn one. There may be a little bit of trading paint. But around the outside and well planted from the man looking to hold on to his crown. Great stuff from Ayrton Birmingham. What with Clint Orland then? He'll be looking to try and get Malia here. They'll be looking potentially into the hairpin. He's been looking fairly strong here. Late breaker into the hairpin. Why not? Outside he'll have to go. Is he going to go for the switch? Blocked off, though. Trading paint on the corner, and that's allowed Dave Potts into this. Dave Potts is alongside. Going up here, you don't want to be going through here too closely, going through Spoon. It's a very tightly compacted area. Dave Potts electing not to go for it too aggressively, but Clint Orland will be very aware. Oh, he goes for the dive, going, and Dave Potts gets the double. Great stuff. Great stuff from the 911. And Clint Orland gains nothing from that in the end. And Malia will be wondering, where did that move come from? Now down to P6 racing with Chris Sammer. Side by side through 130R. This could pose as a bit of a problem. Oh, well held. And great racing from Chris Sammer. Clears Clint Orland. He'll be wondering, how am I still in P5? How am I still in P5 after that? Well, that's because Dave Potts thought and definitely had the audacity to go for the double overtake. Fabulous stuff indeed. Hopefully that wireless charger will get... that wireless controller will get charged, Brandon. I was just watching him, Brandon, directing here tonight. He's done a fabulous job. Fabulous control of this stream here tonight. As has this man, though. Dave Potts, what a fabulous second stint this has been so far from Pottsy. Though he'll be hesitant about the amount of fuel he's got left. Is he chasing down the man winning the title last time out? Or is he managing his own race, I wonder? He has been setting purple sectors, or rather green sectors, sorry, from Potsy. So I'm wondering, 11 starting a little bit of a push against the BMW. Yeah, through the right-hander. Just the car through the left, a spoon, and once again. And just under 10 minutes to go in this race, by the way. This second stint has absolutely flown by, hasn't it? .138.451. I tell you what, Dave Potts is really pushing. Gap now 1.2 to Ayrton Birmingham. Fabulous stuff indeed. Must admit as well, because actually we've got one ear open for our director here tonight, Brandon, actually making a very good point. Hitting late worked big time. It certainly did for Dave Potts. Went for that first stint, went for the ultra long first stint. Whilst everyone else is managing their tyres, Dave doesn't have to worry. I'd be worried about that fuel though. Put in 46% of fuel, I believe it was, at his pit stop. Significantly less than those around him, but though of course he has to go 1 or 2 laps less than everyone else. So I'm wondering if there's going to be some lift and coasting at some point from the 911. Tricking the car through the right-hander and underneath the bridge. 0.217 seconds back. He's still pushing close to his personal best at the moment, is Dave Potts. Now under a second to Ayrton Birmingham. I'm wondering actually if there's going to be potentially a move, probably not on this lap, but I'm thinking maybe into the next lap on the hairpin. The 911 has got so much more grip versus the BMW going through the hairpins. I'm wondering if the next hairpin we see, Dave is going to start looking, or at least teasing the wing mirrors of Ayrton Birmingham. He just very handily just chucks the car, no issue whatsoever. Through the right-hander, then through the left. It's nicely held, actually, from the BMW, but once again, Dave Potts happy to just keep him under pressure. I said it'd be the hairpin, but it's not going to be a late breaker surely into 1. No way. So here's me thinking now we've got Potsy aiming for potentially a little bit of a look in maybe in the 3rd sector. We'll see. Oh, wow. Not very happy to take grass as well if he wants to, Dave Potts. Oof. Going up Dunlop as well. He's side by side. He's definitely getting up close and personal now with Ayrton Birmingham, is Dave Potts. Late breaker. Just a slight touch on the rear. Could be a dive then. Is he looking for it? The gap was certainly there. In the end, elected not to go for it. So it might be Casio, maybe even turn 1 on the next occasion, but he is so much more faster than Ayrton at the moment. And Ayrton will do everything he possibly can to defend this P3. Oh, he's hit the grass! He's hit the grass going into Spoon, and that has offered Dave Potts a very nice overtake. And the podium is falling out of the hands of the man that holds the crown. The current Asphalt King making a mistake on older tyres with potentially less fuel. The advantage certainly now falling out of favour for Ayrton Birmingham. corner, Dave Potts surely will have the traction. But an uncharacteristic mistake from Ayrton Birmingham on the 22nd lap. With 4.5 minutes to go in this race, it's looking more and more unlikely he's going to keep that podium, and it'll only be the 14 points. Very, very uncharacteristic mistake from Ayrton Birmingham. Let's have a look down the rest of the field then, because of course points on offer for everyone in the top 12. Here is, unfortunately at the moment, what's left of Daniel Malier's race. Down in P7 at the moment, so it'd be 8 points, but could be relegated to 6 very quickly here. It's Jean-Paul Vella getting very close up, close and personal, going for the dive bomb into the hairpin. And very well managed indeed from the McLaren, but they're still side by side. But the Nismo just able to get the traction out of the corner on the outside of the hairpin. But the toe on the McLaren alongside the raw power. Oh, just not comfortable out there at the moment is that Nissan. This second stint from Malier has been appalling. It's been awful. He pitted early, if you remember, and it's absolutely paying the price for it. Jean-Paul Vella not going for the move, going through 130R. He's not going to look for it in Casio then. But if he gets the traction out of the corner, turn 1 is definitely a possibility. He's just beaten Daniel Malier, I think, going out of that final corner. So the move could be there. And he goes down that inside line, and they're trading pain. Down the inside line they'll go though, P7. The move is still there. They're still there on the outside. Side by side. Could be a bit of a squeeze, but surely the McLaren has got this one. And Daniel Malier down to P8. He's suffering out there, is the Nissan Nismo. That GTR is not looking strong at all. Whilst the McLaren just gets the move done. So back down to P8. It'd be interesting to see where Aussie is in comparison to Daniel at the moment. It's only 1.5 minutes left in this session. Gap is 27 seconds, so it looks like it will be only a P8 finish for Daniel Malier in the end. So 1 minute to go in this race. And I tell you what, it's been an absolute cracker. Where's Dave Potts at the moment, I wonder? A little bit of a mistake actually from Chris Sammut. Wondering if his tyres are starting to fall off a little bit. Oh, those fronts are absolutely cooked, and he's also struggling for fuel. I was wondering if he put enough fuel in when he pitted. 30 seconds to go in this race. And I think it's not all over here. Jean-Paul Vella could be in a good position as we've got more overtaking happening, and Dave Potts is slowing down considerably. Is this because he's running out of fuel? He did end up using only about 40, I think it was 46% in the pit stop, and I'm wondering if there's now an extreme amount of lift and coasting. This is the final lap of this race, with the 15 minutes now elapsed. Oh, it looks like we're struggling at the moment with the signal. There we go. Dave Potts is going to try his hardest to nurse that car home, but what we thought was Ayrton Birmingham's demise could be a Dave Potts struggle. He just did not put enough fuel in that car. And he's lifting and coasting. He squeezes Ayrton Birmingham off of the track. Clint Orland might be welcoming himself into this party here, as they go side by side, and it's going to be done and dusted. Ayrton Birmingham is back on the podium, and he'll be counting his lucky stars that unfortunately... Oh, Dave Potts is back through. Oh, he's off of the track. Ayrton Birmingham is not just going to be down in 4th, he's be down in 5th. As we have Denzel Agius winning the race by 7 seconds to Jonathan Spiteri. Dave Potts, what a valiant effort indeed. It might still not be over. They're trying to fight for that final podium. They're side by side through the Casio Triangle, squeezed off of the track. Oh, and it might be in the end. I don't believe what I'm seeing here, but in the end, it will be 3rd place for Ayrton Birmingham. Holland finishes in 4th. He's out of fuel, Dave Potts! Down to P8. I didn't think he put enough fuel in. And unfortunately, it's cost him big time. Denzel Agius wins the race for round number 1 of this 4th season of Asphalt Kings, the Season 2 champion. A convincing victory from pole to win. Jonathan Spiteri finishing in 2nd place, over 7 seconds down. Only person to set a best lap time under 2 minutes, by the way, Denzel Agius. Great performance from him. And in the end, what a mixed bag that was between 3rd, 4th. And then in the end, Dave Potts, who ran out of fuel. I didn't think he put enough in. Finishes in P8 in the end. And a consolidated P6. Consolidated P6 for Daniel Malia. Down at the bottom, Aussie 9th. Then you've got Marlon Spiteri in 10th. No, great performance in the end from Owen Kassar down in 11th. Final point scoring position for Sectric. That's Etienne Grima. No points at all, unfortunately, though, for Joseph Pace. Well, that was a good race, wasn't it? In the end, it was a little bit of a sort of slow start, but you could see that there was going to be pit stops galore, and there was going to be a few questions in the end about what it was going to be. But in the end, Denzel Agius from start to finish showed exactly what it was all about. Great race in the end for our first race of the Asphalt Kings. We're going to be moving on next week, though. We're moving over to the next race in Japan as well, because we're going to be moving over to Kyoto for the driving part in the Yamagiwa circuit layout at Kyoto. That should bring some really interesting racing. Of course, the week after that one, our first trip to Europe as we move over to Belgium for the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Should be an absolute cracker nonetheless. And of course, the Circuit de Saint-Croix the week after that. Then we've got a little bit of a break before we go to the Red Bull Ring, Deep Forest Raceway, Nürburgring, and then we finish up on the 11th of September for the Daytona International Speedway. But that will be it, I believe, because I do believe also next week, just FYI, we've also got Adam Reed joining us as well. So it won't just be me on my own. That is it for this particular race. It's been an absolute cracker. Big thank you to Velocity Sports Racing. It's been their production alongside Hyundai, Intercomp, Monster Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy, and The Specialist. We'll be back next week for Kyoto Driving Park at the Yamagiwa